Yeah. I'm down to do the devil.
My fellow Americans.
Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
A man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
He says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that.
I'm down to do the devil.
Yeah.
That sounds like almost like a dance move. Do the devil.
Let's do the devil.
The
We're going to talk
devil.
about demons. We're going to talk about, in the story of Lucifer-like characters. We're going to talk about Baal and Moloch and other devil-like entities.
Hello and welcome to As the World Burns. Today we are going to be talking about the devil. It's going to be a real...
Isn't it Demon Day today?
Today is Demon Day.
We're calling it Demon Day or Devil Day.
Devil Day. It's called Mischief Night.
Well, that's fun.
An informal holiday on which people engage in jokes, pranks, vandalism, or parties. It is known by a variety of names, including Devil's Night, particularly in Detroit. Gate Night, Goosey Night, Moving Night, Cabbage Night, or Mystery Night, and Mat Night. The earliest use of the phrase Mischief Night comes from 1790 when a headmaster encouraged a school play which ended in Ode to Fun, which praises children's tricks on Mischief Night in most approving terms. The concept of Mischief Night is certainly older, though, as Puritan Philip Stubbs decrees the May Day of Mischief Night as early as 1583. Later to the date. Dates vary in different areas, with some marking it traditionally in the 4th of November or the 30th of October, though the latter is more common nowadays. According to one historian, May Day and Green Man had little resonance for children in grimy cities. They looked at the opposite end of the year and found the ideal time the night before the gunpowder plot. However, the shift only happened in the late 19th century and is described by the Opis as one of the mysteries of folklore calendar. Word of Mischief Night began to appear in U.S. newspapers in the 30s and 40s and told of those who were celebrating wanting to put distance between the wholesome night of trick-or-treating and the chaotic night of causing havoc around town. Some believed the stress of the Great Depression was causing people to act out, and this is what caused Mischief Night to break out at that time. It's called Mischief Night, and people go crazy on it.
But it's also Devil's Night.
Yeah.
It's the time to pay our respects. Pay our respects to the devil? Is that what we're doing?
I don't know about that.
Yes, it is. You see, guys, the devil is a trickster. He's the greatest trickster. He's like Loki. People say that the greatest lie that the devil ever told, or the greatest trick that he ever played on humans, the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled on us, is making us think that he isn't cool as fuck, because he is. So we're going to talk about the devil. We're going to talk about what he can and can't do. We're going to talk about what he likes to do. We're going to talk about our experiences and connection and relationships. We're going to tell you what the devil means to us. It's Devil's Night.
A devil is the mythical personification of evil, as it is conceived in various cultures and religious traditions. It is seen as the objectification of a hostile and destructive force. Jeffrey Burton Russell states that the different conceptions of the devil can be summed up as 1. A principle of evil independent from God. 2. An aspect of God. 3. A created being turning evil, a fallen angel. Or 4. A symbol of human evil. Each tradition, culture, and religion with the devil in its mythos offers a different lens on manifestations of evil. The history of these perspectives intertwines with theology, mythology, psychiatry, art, literature, developing independently within each of the traditions. It occurs historically in many contexts and cultures and is given many different names. Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Mephistopheles, Iblis, and attributes. It is portrayed as blue, black, or red, and it is portrayed as having horns on its head and without horns, and so on. Most early belief systems had no unifying concept of evil. In the oldest available records, evil is part of nature in Mesopotamia. Evil is sometimes said to derive from primordial chaos, but there are no inherently evil demons or devils. Various spirits and deities could do both good and evil depending on whim. The oldest known Egyptian beliefs had no evil deities. The gods were morally ambivalent and required to submit to the divine power, required to submit to the divine order of the cosmos, evil being and action violating said harmony. In old Hindu beliefs, deities reflecting the supreme reality are both benevolent and fierce. Even in the Old Testament, the evil and hence devilish characteristics are an expression of Yahweh's wrath. Among ancient Middle Eastern beliefs, Zoroastrianism was the first institutionalized belief system which developed a clear demonology headed by a supreme spirit of evil, i.e. the devil. Around 600 BC, Zarathustra urged his followers to turn away from the
I think it's
Devas, in favor of dedicating worship to Ahura Mazda alone. Unique to Zarathustra's revelation was that he claimed the evil was not part of the Godhead or ultimate reality, but a separate principle independent from God. For the formulation of good and evil is entirely separate principles. Zarathustra argued that God freely chooses goodness, while Angra Mainyu freely chooses evil. By doing so, he established the first known dualistic cosmological system, which would later influence other religions, including Judaism, Christianity, Manichaeism, and Islam. Alienated from the new soul deity, spirits of previous belief systems thus became associated with the forces of evil and hence demons. As servants of the destructive spirit, the demons were believed to follow only evil, inflicting pain and causing destruction. Unfortunate souls who find themselves in the domain of the evil spirits after death are also tortured by the demons. Spirits found to align with the new soul deity then became Godhead servants, i.e. angels. Thus, the originally monistic Canaanite form of Judaism absorbs parts of Persian dualistic tendencies during the post-exilic period. However, Second Temple Judaism and later Christianity differ from Persian dualism in some regards. The proposed omnipotence of God of the former does not allow for a radical dualism, as proposed by the Zoroastrianism and later Manichaeism. Judeo-Christian tradition differs from earlier monistic beliefs by limiting the power of their godhead through an evil principle or force, introduced by Zoroastrianism. Christianity in particular struggled with reconciling God's omnipresence with God's benevolence, while Zoroastrianism sacrificed God's omnipotence for God's benevolence, thus giving rise to a principal devil as independent from God. Christianity mostly insisted on the devil being created and mildly dependent on God. Due to the Christian dualistic monotheism, non-Christian deities became associated with demons. Ephesians 6:12 stating, "Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms," inspired early Christians to think of themselves on a mission to drive out demons. Quote, by the 4th century, most Christians took it from the granted that Greek pagans worshipped demons, and thus belonged to the realm of the spiritually impure. In the 2nd century, Justin Martyr already conceptualized the pagan deities as demons, responsible for persecution of Christians. By the end of the 6th century, Mediterranean society widely identified themselves as unequivocally Christian, with an exception to Jewish people. The last recorded worship of another non-Christian deity is dated to the 570s. Tatian considered the pagan gods to be under the power of fate. The daemons, spirits of the Greeks, thus became the demons of the Christians' belief systems. Under the leadership of Zeus, whom they equated with the devil. That's funny that Zeus was the devil, i.e. the leader of the foreign spirits. Christians, however, would have broken free from the influence of the gods of the Greek pantheon and thus also free from the fetters of the fate and the law. Abstract notions of the devil, such as regarding evil as the mere absence of good, were far too subtle to be embraced by most theologians. During the early Middle Ages, instead, they sought a more concrete image of the devil to represent spiritual struggle and pain. Thus, the devil became more of a concrete entity. From the 4th through the 12th centuries, Christian ideas combined with European pagan beliefs created a vivid folklore about the devil. In many German folk tales, the deceived giants of pagan tales are substituted by a devil. For example, the devil builds a bridge in exchange for the first passing of the being's soul. Then people let a dog pass the bridge first, and the devil is cheated. At the same time, the magical rites calling upon pagan deities were replaced by references to Jesus Christ. The devil is identified with several figures in the Bible, including the serpent in the Garden of Eden, Lucifer, Satan, and the tempter of the Gospels, Leviathan, and the dragon in the book of Revelation. Some parts of the Bible which do not refer to an evil spirit or Satan at the time of the composition of texts are interpreted as references to the devil in Christian tradition. Genesis 3 mentions the serpent in the Garden of Eden, which tempts Adam and Eve into eating the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, thus causing their expulsion from the garden. The Babylonian myth of the rising star is the embodiment of a heavenly being who was thrown down for his attempt to ascend into the higher planes of gods. It's also found in the Bible and interpreted as a fallen angel. Ezekiel's cherub in Eden is thought to be a description of the major characteristics of the devil, that he was created good as a high-ranking angel and lived in Eden, later turning evil on his own accord. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you: ruby, topaz, emerald, chrysolite, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Gold work of tambourines and of pipes was in you. In the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed cherub who covers, and I set you so that you were on the holy mountain of God. You have walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. You were perfect in your ways from the day that you were created until the unrighteousness was found in you. The Hebrew term Satan was originally a common noun meaning accuser or adversary, and derived from a verb meaning primarily to obstruct or oppose. Satan is conceptualized as a heavenly being hostile to humans and a personification of evil 18 times in Job 1-2 and Zechariah 3. In the book of Job, Job is a righteous man favored by God. Job 1:6-8 describes the Son of God presenting themselves before God. Satan thinks Job only loves God because he has been blessed, so he requests that God test the sincerity of Job's love for God through suffering, expecting Job to abandon his faith. God consents. Satan destroys Job's family, health, servants, and flocks, yet Job refuses to condemn God. The devil figures much more prominently in the New Testament and in Christian theology than in the Old Testament. The devil is a unique entity through the New Testament, neither identical to the demons nor the fallen angels, the tempter, and perhaps rules over the kingdoms of earth. In the temptation of Christ, the devil offers all kingdoms of the earth to Jesus, implying they belong to him.
Yeah, it's implying that like the devil actually rules the world, which is like the Gnostic idea apparently. And like the fact that like God doesn't like denounce the devil, like it's like the devil. It's going along with the idea that like the devil's working for the God. I'd say it's more like, again, not the Gnostic way of looking at it. And correct me if I'm wrong. God is like everything, and the devil's just like an aspect, like we're an aspect.
Yeah.
But the devil's like one of the primordial aspects that's kind of not good. And what's funny is we were talking about Philip K. Dick and Valis, and I think in Valis it kind of mentions that there's another one that you could see as Jesus. Jesus isn't God in that version of it. Jesus, it is kind of part of God, but only a part of God in the way that the devil's a part of God. But he's like the two halves. The two halves are Valis, which is Jesus, I believe. I'm like, again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm likely am. And then the devil, which like rules over everything. The devil made this universe, and this other being came in to fix everything, and that being's Jesus. But also other beings, because it kind of reincarnates and body hops like a parasitic alien. Jesus is a parasitic alien. The devil rules the world. All right, keep going.
Jesus is okay. Since Jesus does not dispute this offer, it may indicate that the authors of those Gospels believe this to be true. This event is described in all three synoptic Gospels. Some church fathers, such as Irenaeus, reject that the devil holds such power, arguing that since the devil was a liar since the beginning, he also lied here, and that all kingdoms belong to God, referring to Proverbs 21, as you were saying. Adversaries of Jesus are suggested to be under the influence of the devil. John 8:40 speaks about the Pharisees as the offspring of the devil. John 13:2 states the devil entered Judas Iscariot before Judas' betrayal. In all three synoptic gospels, Jesus himself is accused of serving the devil. Jesus' adversaries claim that he receives the power to cast out demons from Beelzebub, the devil. In response, Jesus says that a house divided against itself will fail, and that there would be no reason for the devil to allow one to defeat the devil's works with his own power. That's a pretty what do you call it, boss mic drop.
I mean, that goes along with it, you know, like it's like fighting your own team. It's like the devil might not seem like he's on our side, but we're all in this boat.
Yeah. According to the first epistle of Peter, like a roaring lion to your adversary, the devil prowls around looking for someone to devour. The authors of the second epistle of Peter and the epistle of Jude believe that God prepares judgment for the devil and his fellow fallen angels, who are bound in darkness until the divine retribution. In the epistle to the Romans, the inspirer of sin is also implied to be the author of death. The epistle of the Hebrews speaks the devil as the one who has the power of death but is also defeated through the death of Jesus. In the second epistle of the Corinthians, Paul the apostle warns that Satan is often disguised as an angel of light. In the book of Revelation, a dragon serpent called the devil or Satan wages war against the archangel Michael, resulting in the dragon's fall. The devil is described with features similar to primordial chaos monsters, like the Leviathan in the Old Testament. The identification of the serpent as Satan offers identification of the serpent in Genesis with the devil. Interesting. Gnostic and Gnostic influence religions postulate the idea that the material world is inherently evil. The one true God is remote beyond the material universe, therefore this universe must be governed by an inferior imposter deity. This deity was identified with the deity of the Old Testament by some sects such as the Scythians and the Massians. Tertullian accuses Marcion of Sinope that he held that the Old Testament was a scandal to the faithful and accounted for by postulating that Jehovah was a secondary deity, a demiurgus who was God in a sense but not the supreme God. He was just, rigidly just. He had his good qualities but also not the good God who was the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. That's what this guy said. John Aronson in the Catholic Encyclopedia mentions that Eusebius accuses Apelles, the 2nd century AD Gnostic, of considering the inspirer of Old Testament prophecies to be not a god but an evil angel. These writings commonly refer to the creator of the material world as the demiurgus. To distinguish him from the one true God, some texts such as the Apocryphon of John on the origin of the world not only demonized the creator God but also called him by the name of the devil in some writings, like Samael. Here are some names, titles, and epithets. Ash Shaitan, Satan, the attributive Arabic term referring to the devil. Angra Mainyu, Ahriman, the malign spirit, the unholy spirit. The Dark Lord. Der Leibhashtige, Teufel, German, the devil in the flesh, corporeal.
It's Old Scratch.
Old Scratch. Is that one of them? The stranger, Old Nick, a colloquialism for the devil as indicated by the name of the character in the short story The Devil and Tom Walker. Oh, so that was like just a specific story.
Yeah.
Diabolos, the Greek name for him.
Diabolos.
The evil one, the father of lies.
I like that one.
Yeah, I like that one too. Iblis, name of the devil in Islam, the lord of the underworld, lord of hell, lord of this world. Lucifer, the morning star, Greek and Roman, the bringer of light, illuminator, the planet Venus, often portrayed as Satan's name in Christianity. Kolski from Iceland, Mephistopheles, the prince of darkness, the devil in Manichaeism.
Mephistopheles is where we get Mephisto from.
Yeah, exactly. From Marvel. Ruprecht, a common name for the devil in Germany. Satan, the adversary, accuser, prosecutor in Christianity, the devil. The serpent. Voland, a fictional character in The Master, and Margarita. They could fill up that list with a lot of fictional characters.
There are definitely plenty more names,
Yeah,
but we can move on from the names.
yeah. Do you want to name the classification of demons?
I mean, we can go through some demons real quick. Let's go through it. Maybe we'll touch on the lesser key.
There have been various attempts at the classification of demons within the context of classical mythology, demonology, occultism, and Renaissance magic. These classifications may be purposes of traditional medicine, exorcism, ceremonial magic, witch hunts, lessons in morality, folklore, religious ritual, or combinations thereof. Classifications might be according to astrological connections, elemental forms, noble titles, or parallels to the angelic hierarchy, or by association with particular sins, diseases, and other calamities, or by what angel or saint opposes them. Many of the authors of such classifications identified as Christian, though Christian authors are not the only ones who have written on the subject. Classification by domain. The Testament of Solomon. Testament of Solomon is a pseudepigraphical work purportedly written by King Solomon, which the author mostly describes particular demons who he enslaved to help build the temple. Questions he put them about their deeds and how they could be thwarted in their answers, which provide a kind of self-help manual against demonic activity. The date is very dubious, though it is considered the oldest surviving work particularly concerned with individual
Let me step
demons.
in for a second and just say Solomon was the man.
Solomon was man.
Solomon was that guy.
Talk a little bit about him.
Solomon is my great I forgot how many greats it is, but he's one of my great grandfathers. All right, go on, continue. That's all.
Okay. Michael Pacellus prepared the influential De Operatione Daemonium on the operation of demons in the 11th century with a taxonomy dividing demons into 6 types: Lilarium, igneous, aerial, marine, aqueous, terrestrial, earthly, subterranean, and lucifugious, heliophobic. What is heliophobic? So fear of the sun? In 1409 to 1410, The Lantern of Light, an anonymous English Lollard tract often attributed to John Wycliffe, provided a classification system based on the 7 deadly sins, known as the 7 deadly devils, or 7 princes of hell, with each demon tempting people by means of those sins. The first is Lucifer, that reigns in his malice over the children of pride. The second is called Beelzebub, that lords over the envious. The third is Satan, and wrath is his lordship. The fourth is called Abaddon, the slothful be his retinue. The fifth is Mammon, and as with him, the avaricious.
I've always pronounced that as Abaddon. Am I
Abaddon.
wrong?
The fourth is called Abaddon, the slothful be his retinue. The fifth is Mammon, and has with him the avaricious. And also fittingly, a foul sin, covetousness, is with his company of subjects. The sixth is called Belphegor, that is the god of gluttons, and the seventh is
Fantastic name.
Asmodeus. Yeah, that is
Such
a good
cool
one.
name. Great name for a killer clown.
Yeah, Belphegor. The seventh is Asmodeus, that leads with him the lecherous. The list was later used in the works of John Taylor, the water poet. Later writers such as Peter Binsfield assigned different demons to the respective sin, should not be confused with this list. The 2 classification systems are shown side by side. You guys can't really see it, but maybe I'll show you one. The Lantern of Light, number 1, Lucifer, pride, Beelzebub, envy, Satan, wrath, Abaddon, sloth, Mammon, greed, Belphegor, gluttony, Asmodeus, lust. And then it just shows Binsfield's classification is 1, pride, Lucifer, Mammon, greed, Asmodeus, lust, 4, Leviathan, envy, Beelzebub, gluttony, Satan, wrath, and Belphegor, sloth. And then in 1467, Alfonso de Spina prepared a classification of demons. Incubi and succubi, wandering groups of armies of demons, can include multiple regions in hell. Familiars, druids, cambions, and other demons that are born from the union of demon with a human being. A liar and mischievous demons. Demons that attack the saints are rogue demons. Demons that try to induce old women to attend witches' sabbaths. This classification is somewhat capricious and is difficult to find a criterion for it. It seems that Spina was inspired by several legends and stories. The Druids belonged to German folklore. Familiars, goblins, and other mischievous demons belonged to the folklore of most European countries. The belief in incubi and succubi and their ability to procreate seemed to have inspired the fifth category, but it could have also been inspired by the Talmudic legend of demons having sexual intercourse with mortal women and men. See Mystima, the visions of tempting demons that some early and not so early saints had perhaps inspired the eighth category, e.g., the visions of Anthony the Great. The idea of old women attending Sabbaths was common during the European Middle Ages and Renaissance, and Spina mentioned it before Malleus Maleficarium. Agrippa's classification in De Occulta Philosophia, Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa proposed several classifications for demons based on numeric scales like his whole cosmology. When I was in middle school, I made a deal with the devil to get my teacher sick so I wouldn't have to take a test.
Did you really?
No, I pleaded to God. I didn't plead to the devil.
Yeah, dude, that's like Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3.
I just want you to fuck up Peter Parker, please. All right.
I want you to kill Peter Parker's aunt. Please, God. Shit like that. Babylonian.
I was gonna say we gotta real quick talk about the some of the demons.
Yeah, we gotta name some demons. There's other demons. Like
All right, we got Michaelis classification, and this seems to be a pretty good one. First hierarchy includes angels that were seraphim, cherubim, and ophanim thrones. Beelzebub was a prince of the seraphim, second to Lucifer, founder of Hell's Order of the Fly.
Is it Beelzebub or is it Beelzebub?
Beelzebub was a prince of the seraphim, second to Lucifer, founder of Hell's Order of the Fly. He tempts men with envy and is opposed by Saint Francis. Leviathan was also a prince of the seraphim who tempts people to give in to heresy and is opposed by Saint Peter. Asmodeus was a prince of the Ophanim / thrones, burning with desire to tempt men into wantonness. He is opposed by Saint John the Baptist.
Wow.
Yeah. Berith was a prince of the cherubim. He tempts men to commit homicide and to be quarrelsome, contentious, and blasphemous. He is opposed by Saint Barnabas. Astaroth was a prince of thrones who tempts men to be lazy and is opposed by Saint Bartholomew. Varine was also a prince of the thrones, just below Astaroth. He tempts men with impatience and is opposed by Saint Dominic.
Wait, who's opposed by Saint Bartholomew?
Astaroth.
Astaroth. Cool.
Prince of Thrones, obviously. He tempts men to be lazy.
Cool.
Gressel was the third prince of thrones who tempts men with impurity and is opposed by Saint Bernard. Sinalin was the fourth prince of thrones who tempts men to hate and is opposed by Saint Stephen. The second hierarchy includes powers, dominions, and virtues. Corral was the prince of powers. He tempts men with hardness of heart and is opposed by Saint Vincent. Carnivale was also a prince of powers. He tempts men to obscenity and shamelessness and is opposed by John the Evangelist. Oilet was a prince of dominions. He tempts men to break the vow of poverty and is opposed by Saint Martin. Rogier was the second in the order of dominions. He tempts men against sexual purity and is opposed by Saint Basil. Belias was the prince of virtues. He tempts men with arrogance and women to be vain, raise wanton children, and gossip during Mass. He is opposed by Saint Francis de Paul. The third hierarchy: principalities, archangels, and angels. Verrier was the prince of principalities. He tempts men against the vow of obedience and is opposed by Saint Bernard. Olivier was the prince of archangels. He tempts men with cruelty and mercilessness toward the poor and is opposed by Saint Lawrence, patron saint of the poor. Louvart was the prince of the angels. At the time of Michaelis' writings, Louvart was believed to have possessed a young novice nun of the Ursulines, Madeleine Damondoles de la Palude, from whom it was exorcised. Many of the names and ranks of these demons appear in the Sabbath litanies of witches, according to Jules Garnet's Histoire de la Magie en France and Colin de Plancy's Dictionnaire Infernal. Fun, very fun. You know, a lot of interesting ones there. You know, um,
Which one's your
real.
favorite?
Which one's my favorite?
Yeah.
Hmm. That's an interesting question, honestly. I like the name Asmodeus, but as far as like which one's my favorite because of like his hierarchy and what he does and everything like that. Uh, let's see. I would probably say Willette, the Prince of Dominions, because he tempts men to break the vow of poverty. So that to me just it seems like anyone trying to get rich will just make a deal with this guy. So,
Yeah.
you know,
True.
that's a one that I like. I like
That's
Astaroth's
one who's
name.
like looking to make a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. You know what
And
I
honestly,
like?
if you can, here's what I would say toward
Yeah.
that demon. If you could like, not, I guess this is what I would say to you, if you were thinking about trying to make some sort of deal with a demon like that, you probably want
I'm
to
not,
like
but
Okay, I'm
well,
saying
let's
hypothetically.
I was gonna say
This is
let's
just a
talk to
thought
the
experiment.
audience too, also. I just
I know
realized I'm dumb for not talking to the audience on this, so go ahead.
this is just a thought experiment, but I
Yeah.
think that you'd have to not convince, but like show and like prove or somehow convey to this demon that if a deal is struck with you and it's worthwhile to you and it gets enough payment on its side, that it could be a continued thing where there'd be more deals that'd be plenty enough lucrative for this demon to not get rid of you. It's like, well,
That's just like a Ponzi scheme, though. You know, demon, channeling demons and asking for their help is like a Ponzi scheme because they're just going to keep asking for more and more, and eventually
but
you lose either way.
it's like it's a Ponzi scheme where like right off the bat they're giving you $1 million. And they're like, That's the first step. Here you go." But like now you
Yeah,
have to
but
do all this
no
other stuff.
matter what, you lose. This
I mean,
it is
I'm not
truly a
saying
Ponzi scheme.
I disagree, but
I
continue.
think it is. I think it is.
What I'm trying to say is
It's a
that like
scam. It's a classic scam.
something like this, so you don't know it's a classic scam. You
I
know,
mean, a lot of people seem to be aware of it being a classic scam. You know what I mean? Like a lot of
that's
people
just
are
the
like,
narrative.
you know,
That's just the narrative.
all right, let's go over King Solomon's demons real quick. Here's the list of demons that King Solomon says. This is who he says are the kings. Baal, Paimon, Beleth, Person, Asmodeus, Vine, Balaam, Zagan, Belial. These are the it doesn't really say what they're involved with,
Belial
but
is one of my favorite demon names.
Belial, that is a cool demon name. I like Zagan, that's a cool one.
Yeah, Zagon is like what do you imagine like a scary person on a cartoon would be? Like
Yeah, or a
a
really
bad person
wacky,
who's like,
crazy guy.
yeah,
Oh, that's just Zagan again, like in the
Zagon.
future.
It's like some sci-fi cartoon bad guy.
Exactly, literally, exactly.
Well, what does he have dominion over?
I don't know.
what
Let
can he
me
have?
let me find because it doesn't really say for all these guys.
So
Um,
these demons I think are a little bit more specific because the other ones were like the overarching like archdemons and demon princes that rule over like whole levels of sin.
yeah, yeah. Baal is like the head. I found a list that talks about the specifics. Zagan is a great king and president of hell, commanding over 30 legions of demons. He makes men witty. He can also turn wine into water, water into wine, and blood into
See,
wine.
see,
He
this
makes
is what
men witty.
I'm gonna enjoy about this. This list is just gonna tell you like what you can get out of these demons because that's what Solomon did.
Hmm. Other of his powers is that of turning metals into coins that are made with that metal. Gold into a gold coin, copper into a copper coin. Zagon is depicted as a griffin-winged bull that turns into a man after a while. I love how it says after a while. They're like, no amount of time, just like, yeah, eventually. Belial, the one that you like the name of, is a king with 80 legions of demons and 50 legions of spirits under his command. He was created as the first after Lucifer. He was the power to distribute senatorships and gives excellent familiars. He must be presented with offerings, sacrifices, gifts, or else he will not give true answers to demands. Let's go
That's
over.
specific. Was like, I think Solomon was able to command demons that were.
That's what it said. Yeah, that's what
Solomon could command
supposedly he.
demons and just tell them what to do sometimes. I
Yeah.
guess this is saying that Belial, it's not so easy.
Oh yeah. Well, that he was among the kings, so maybe
Yeah.
he could command like the presidents and the knights and earls and the marquises. But let's get to this one. Has a lot of people in it. Demons. A lot of people. This one has a lot of demons in it. Amdusius has 29 let me just go through the one. If we hear one that's interesting, we'll go into it. Amdusius, Agaris, Velifar, Barbatos, Guzian,
Barbatos.
Eligos, Barbatos.
Hold on, isn't that the Bat Demon from Batman?
It's actually Barbatus.
Barbados.
Yeah.
Barbados.
Barbatus. I don't know. No, literally. Barbados is a major cosmic villain in the DC Comics universe, primarily known as the main antagonist of the 2017-2018 event series Dark Knight's Metal. He is an ancient, malevolent bat god from the dark multiverse who seeks to plunge the entire DC multiverse into darkness and chaos.
And
That's
they didn't
fun.
tell you that actually it's based on a demon in the real world.
That makes sense.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. That's cool, though.
It is cool.
His army consists of the Dark Knights, a group of twisted, evil, alternate versions of Batman. All right, so that's what Barbatus is, in pop culture, one thing that he's based on, or based on him. Then we got Gusion. Gusoin, that's how you... Then we got Gusoin, Eligos, Zepar, Bathin, Celios, Aim, Boon, Berith, Astaroth, Focalor, Vepar, Voile, Crocel, Alisair, Mimir, Gremory, Vapula. That one sounds interesting. Depicted as a griffin-winged lion. Floros Dentalion. Interesting. Those are all the dukes. One that I thought was interesting was Astaroth. Feathered wings, wearing a crown, holding a serpent in one hand and riding a beast with dragon-like wings and a serpent-like tail. Cool. He is according to Sebastian Michaelis, the one that we just read about, he's the demon of the first hierarchy. Berith, Great Duke of Hell. He speaks with clear and subtle voice and is recounted in Aleister Crowley's illustrated Goetia. He is a liar when not answering questions. To speak with him, the conjurer must
He's
wear
a liar
silver.
when not answering questions.
Yep.
So if you ask him a question, he has to tell the truth.
Yeah, but anything else he can lie about, I guess. So maybe if
That's
he
good to
starts,
know.
that is good to know, because maybe if he starts getting into like other things that are related to what you're talking about, he's lying to you. But if you ask him straight up something, that initial answer is not a lie, but anything that he gets into might be a lie. You know what I'm saying?
True, and I bet he could like lie and then he could tell the truth and then lie within the same sentence.
Yeah. So he could tell one truth at the beginning and then say, but or like put one of those words. What are they called? Conjunctions, and then
He could
say
probably
something else that's a
also
lie.
he could probably also do like a long answer that doesn't lie at all, contains the truth somewhere in the middle,
But
and then
just
lies for
confuses
like the
you.
rest of it.
Yeah, you got to watch out for this guy.
I bet he has a bunch of anime mind tactics.
Probably. We got the princes, Visago. Let's see, Citri, Epos, Ep- Epes, Gope, Gape. I guess that would be the name.
Let me see. Hold on.
Gaap,
Gop?
Gop. Yeah, that makes sense.
Is there an apostrophe in there somewhere?
No. Necromancers honor him with sacrifices
Or
and burning
Goop?
offerings. He's depicted in human shape.
Tap is
Teaches,
easier to understand. Sorry, you said
yeah.
you were talking about. Sorry, you're talking about somebody else.
No, I'm talking about this guy. Gap teaches philosophy and all liberal sciences, can cause love or hate and make men insensible and invisible, deliver familiars out of the custody of other magicians, and teaches how to consecrate those things that belong to the dominion of Amon, his king. Interesting. Stolas, Oribas, Sier. And then we have the Marquises, Gemigen. That one I said right. Gemigen is depicted as a little horse or a donkey which changes form into a man under the conjurer's quest. Okay. He gives an account of the souls of those who died in sin and who drowned in sea, speaking with a rough voice. Imagine a rough voiced donkey telling you about people that have died in sin.
This reminds me of
It sounds cartoonish.
there's a horse-headed being. I think you might have even mentioned it in our Halloween episode, in our Samhain episode.
Oh, did I?
And I want to say it's similar to the thing in Doom Patrol. That horse-headed demon that he summons. What's the name of that demon? That thing.
I still haven't really watched most of it, but I got
Hold
you.
on. Oh, that's hilarious. It's Baphomet.
Oh, that's funny.
Baphomet with a horse head.
So we got Amon Lerigi Naberius, who's depicted as a crow or a black crane. We have Renovi, a monster holding a staff without detailing his appearance. He's also described as a taker of old souls, often coming to Earth to harvest souls. Fornius, he's depicted as a great sea monster. Macrosius, he has griffin's wings and a wolf with a man's form. Phoenix, great Marquise, and Phoenix hopes to return to heaven after 1,200 years, but he's deceived in his hope. He's depicted as a phoenix which sings sweet notes with the voice of a child. Huh. Sabnock. That's a great one. That's a great name. Shax. I like Shax. That's a cool one. Aureus. Andros. Depicted as an owl or raven, and he's got like a sword and shit, and he rides
That's
on a
cool.
wolf. Yeah.
They
He's
like.
considered to be highly dangerous.
I'm just imagining a lot of these people. All these people who made up these ideas were like priests, right? Like different religious monks, maybe. Like
Yeah.
the people are just creating these ideas. Like, do you think they were like nerds?
They were spiritual nerds.
Do you think they were like, oh, that'd be because these are supposed to be evil beings, right?
Yeah. Nerds had to do something back in the day too, dude, besides just getting killed all the time and arrested.
Exactly. I think they loved making up these demons, and like they couldn't help but make these demons cool.
I think that's true. We got Androlphus, Chimerus, and then oh my god, that one's hard to say. The Carabia. Then the Earls, real quick. Furfur, Malthus, Rome, Bifrons, Andromulus. I love that name.
Andromulus.
That's a great name. Knights for Furcos, Oh, wait, there's only one knight? Why is it listed as knights? And then presidents. Marbas, Bior, Botus, Marax, Glacia Labalis, and Faras. And Malphus, Hagenti, Cameo, Ose, Ami, and Velak. All right. Cool. You want to talk about deals with the devil?
Yeah. We'll talk
Okay.
more about deals with devils.
A deal with the devil, or Faustian bargain, is a cultural motif exemplified by the legend of Faust and the figure of Mephistopheles, as well as being the elemental to many Christian traditions. According to traditional Christian belief about witchcraft, the pact is between a person and the devil, or another demon trading a soul for diabolical favors, which vary tale by tale, but tend to include youth, knowledge of wealth, fame, and power. It's also believed that some people made this type of pact just as a sign of recognizing the minion as their master, in exchange for nothing. The bargain is a dangerous one, as the price of the fiend's service is the wagerer's soul. For most religions, the tale may have a bad end, with eternal damnation for the foolhardy venturer. Conversely, it may have a comic twist in which a wily peasant outwits the devil, characteristically on a technical point. Typically only in fiction, but who knows, maybe that happens. The person making the pact sometimes tries to outwit the devil but loses in the end. It is usually thought that individuals who make a pact also promise the demons that they will do an Anakin or consecrate them to the devil at the moment of birth. Many midwives were accused of this due to the number of children who died at birth in Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Take part in witches' sabbats, have sexual relations with demons, and sometimes engender children from a succubus or an incubus in the case of women. The pact can be either oral or written. An oral pact may be made by means of invocations, conjurations, or rituals to attract the demon. Once the conjurer thinks the demon is present, they ask for the wanted favor and offer their soul in exchange, and no evidence is left of the pact. But according to some witch trials, an oral pact left evidence in the form of the witch's mark, an indelible mark where the marked person had been touched by the devil to seal the pact. The mark could be used as a proof to determine that the pact was made. It's also believed that on the spot where the mark was left, the marked person could feel no pain. A written pact consists in the same form of attracting the demon, but includes a written pact, usually signed with the conjurer's blood. Although sometimes it was also alleged that the whole act to be written with blood. Meanwhile, some demonologists defended the idea of using red ink instead of blood, and others suggested the use of animal blood instead of human blood. These acts present themselves as diabolical pacts, though there is not always certainty of an actor's authentic sanity. Usually the acts included strange characters that were said to be the signature of a demon, and each one had his own sigil. Books like The Lesser Key of Solomon give a detailed list of these origins known as diabolical signatures. The Malleus Maleficarum discusses several alleged instances of pacts with the devil, especially concerning women. It was considered that all witches and warlocks that made a pact with one of the demons, usually Satan. According to demonology, there is a specific month, day of the week, and hour to call each demon. So the invocation for a pact has to be done at the right time. Also, as each demon has a specific function, a certain demon is invoked depending on what the conjurer is going to ask. In the narrative of the Synoptic Gospels, Jesus is offered a series of bargains by the devil, in which he is promised worldly riches and glory in exchange for serving the devil rather than God. Upon rejecting the devil's overtures, he embarks on his travels as the Messiah. Interesting. And here's some alleged historical examples. An extensive legend of supposed devilish pact was focused on by the character Pope Sylvester II, a prominent and skilled scholar and scientist in his lifetime, who had studied mathematics and astrology in the then Muslim cities of Cordoba and Seville. According to the legend spread by William of Malmesbury and Cardinal Benno of Santi Martino e Silvestro, Sylvester II had also learned sorcery, using a book of spells stolen from an Arab philosopher who had a pact with a female demon named Meridiana, who appeared after he had been rejected by his earthly lover, and with whose help he managed to ascend to a papal throne. Another legend tells that he won the papacy by playing dice with the devil. The Icelandic priest and scholar Sæmundur Sigfússon was credited in Icelandic folklore with having made pacts with the devil and managing by various tricks to get the better of the deal. Yeah, sure he did. For example, in one famous story, Sæmundur made a pact with the devil that the devil should bring him home to Iceland from Europe on the back of a seal. Sæmundur escaped the diabolical end when on arrival he hit the seal on the head with the Christian Bible, killing it and stepping safely ashore. I don't know if that really worked. Like, right? Like that's not going to work for you when you die. Right? That's
No.
just like okay, this'll be good. No, that's he's still going to get fucked, in the end.
Obsession is a big thing with these demons. And it's kind of ties into how they encompass different aspects of reality and human nature. And
Maybe these demons got this guy easily because he had the pride and hubris to think that he could easily just stomp out making a deal with Satan with a
no, 'cause the
Bible.
deal, like you said, the deal is pretty shitty. He literally said you can have my soul.
Yeah, it's super shitty. So why is this dude basically saying I'll
Let me
be
tell you why. Let me
you
tell
know?
you why. Because he thinks his book is more important. And that's
so
obsession.
it's about intention.
It's about the obsession he has with his own work. And that he thinks
But
that
it's
it doesn't matter if he's damned because he thinks that his book is more important than himself.
so it's like when all the characters at the end of This Is the End die, but still go to heaven because they do it in heroic ways. So he's basically martyring himself in a way for God.
I don't know. What was his book for again? Why would he sell his soul? What was he trying to write?
He was trying to get back to England or whatever.
What?
Yeah. He made bring him home to Iceland. Oh, to Iceland from Europe on the back of a seal. And Samunder escaped the diabolical end when on arrival he hit the seal on the head with the Christian Bible, killing it and stepping safely ashore. Okay, here's one. In order to avoid his harsh penalty, he promised to create in one night a book to glorify the monastery forever, including all human knowledge. Near midnight, he became sure that he could not complete his task alone, so he made a special prayer not addressed to God, but to the fallen angel Lucifer, asking him to help to finish the book in exchange for his soul. That's funny. The devil completed the manuscript, and the monk added the devil's picture out of gratitude. Oh, this was a different story. Why did they that story that I just read there was actually a totally different story about a monk. That's a famous one. I'm gonna throw up the picture of it too, of the devil picture, but they didn't tell me that I was switching. But that was a famous monk that was basically something was gonna happen to him. He his monastic vows, and he was walled up alive. So in order to not get the death penalty or whatever, he had to write a thing about about a manuscript, and he
I'm
helped.
sorry. Hold
The
on.
devil helped him with it.
Hold on. I didn't hear the beginning of that story. Can we redo this? Talk about Samunder Sigfusson.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead. Just do the whole thing again. I'm sorry, because
What part? Because this it just told me that it went to a different one.
and his whole thing is that he was getting away with it using tricks. He was making many pacts with the devil. It is the same person.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the same person that that did the book about In Exchange for His Soul. It's not.
He did, because he says right here, in order to avoid his harsh because look.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, that's a totally different person. This guy didn't do that. That was because I can tell you because that devil's picture out of gratitude for his aid is from a famous book by a monk.
Is
That's
that
about a
him?
monk. No, it's not him. That's it.
Are you
That's about
sure?
a. Yeah, I swear to God. I
Because what were
swear to
you
God.
reading? I'm reading this whole section about Simunder Sigfusson.
Whoever edited this just screwed up when they were writing. They didn't put a bullet point for the next guy. You know what I'm saying?
Are you sure?
I swear to God. I'll show you the actual one. You know about this monk
I know.
manuscript
I know.
devil.
I just want to make sure you cut out a lot of that makes it real. Like for
the
like
Devil's
most of that
Bible.
talk with him, I wasn't. I didn't even know what we were talking about. I thought I knew, but
Yeah.
I didn't.
No, I thought that I was still talking about the same thing, honestly. And then I realized when I got to the end, I was like, oh, this is talking about the Devil's Bible.
Yeah.
So they just screwed up when they were bulleting. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Notable so that was a famous one from the Codex Gigas. Notable supposed deals with the devil were struck between the 15th and 18th century. They're not going to tell us who. Motif lives on among musicians until the 20th century. Yeah, because musicians tend to be like sad and depressed, and they're like, I want to be a better musician, so I'll make a deal with the devil. That's easy. And a lot of them, their lives don't end up that great anyways, so why not, I guess, right? Johann Georg Faust, whose life was the origin of the Faust legend. John Theon, a doctor and schoolteacher, was declared a notorious sorcerer. He was confessed to having a compact with Satan during the North Berwick witch trials in Scotland, which he confessed to King James as the trial proceedings were taking place, but later promised that he would renounce his compact with Satan and vow to lead the life of a Christian. The next morning, he confessed. Oh shit. The next morning, he confessed that the devil came to him in his cell dressed all black and holding a white wand, demanding Theon continue his faithful service, according to his first oath and promise. Theon testified that he renounced Satan to his face, saying, "Get thee behind me, thou Satan, and start pushing, for I have listened too much to thee, and by the same thou hast undone me, in respect whereof I will utterly undo you." He confessed that the devil then answered, "That once ere thou die shalt thou that once ere thou die, thou shalt be mine." The devil afterwards broke the white wand and immediately banished from his sight. He was then given a chance to lead the life he promised, but the same night he stole a key to his cell and escaped. He was eventually captured and tortured until his execution. Well, that one had a funny ending. Urban Grandier. It does also sound like he like the devil really screwed him in the end also. That last guy. Urban Grandier, a 17th century French priest who was tried and burned at the stake for witchcraft. One of the documents presented at his trial was a diabolical pact he supposedly signed, which also bears what are supposed to be the seals of several demons. Some of these guys would be really cool to like look up and research a little bit.
You don't think he was framed?
I mean, maybe.
I think a lot of people are getting framed.
He was a priest, so that maybe somebody was like pissed that he was like doing like some shit, like getting all like praise and shit. They're like, he's a demon, or he makes pacts with demons.
Yeah.
Christoph Heisman, a 17th century painter, a 17th century painter from Bavaria. I almost said that like a painter from Bavaria. A 17th century painter from Bavaria allegedly signed 2 pacts to be a bounded son to the devil in 1668. Bernard Folk, a 17th century captain for the Dutch East India Company, renowned for his uncanny speed from the Dutch Republic to Java, which led legends that he was in league with the devil. He's also alleged to be the model for the ghostly captain of the Flying Dutchman. That one I can believe. A guy from the East India. I was gonna say I can believe that a guy from the Dutch East India Company could make a pact with the devil. I could believe that one. They're the ones that basically like went around the world and were like murdering people and making them go into submission and trying to find like
The
resources.
original BlackRock.
Yeah, exactly. Jonathan Malton, an 18th century brigadier general of the New Hampshire militia, was alleged to have sold his soul to the devil to have his boots filled with gold coins when hung by the fireplace every month. You can do that. That's all. That's as easy as it gets. You just hang your boots up and you get gold coins. Giuseppe Tartini, a Venetian violinist and composer who believed that his Devil's Trill Sonata was inspired by the devil's appearance before him in a dream. And Niccolo Paganini, an Italian violinist who may not have started the rumor but played along with it. Philippe Moussard, French composer and, more importantly, orchestra leader whose wild conducting and sensuous concerts generated the rumor while a celebrity in Paris in the 1830s. And Tommy Johnson, the blues musician, and famously Robert Johnson, who met Satan at a crossroads and signed over his soul to play the blues and gain mastery of the guitar. That's a famous one, and we're probably going to go over that a little more when we talk about like celebrity conspiracies or go over.
When we do the music industry.
That's what I was going to say. Exactly. Like when we start like getting into music and shit like that, we're going to get into the 27 Club. We're going to get into we're going to get into the 27 Club. We're going to get into all these crazy things that people are going to be familiar with. This Robert Johnson making a deal with the devil is a famous one that I kind of wanted to go over because that's an interesting story. Infernus, supposedly a black metal musician. Unlike the claims above, it is Infernus himself who directly claims he sold his soul to the devil. According to the official website for Infernus band Gorgoroth, Infernus founded the band after making a pact with the devil in 1992. Infernus is also on record, including in Newsweek magazine, publicly stating that he worships Satan. Well, that's fun. That guy sounds like an interesting fellow.
I think we should get into Baphomet and Baal in the Canaanites.
Baphomet is a figure rooted in the occult and Western esoteric traditions. The name first emerged in the 14th century during the trials of the Knights Templar when the order was accused of heresy for worshipping Baphomet as a demonic idol. Baphomet was reimagined by the 19th century occultists amidst renewed debate over the suppression of the Templars. The modern popular image of Baphomet was established by Eliphas Levi in his 1856 Dogme et Ritual de la Haute Magie. His sabbatic goat illustration depicts a winged androgynous human-goat hybrid, a deliberate synthesis of binary opposites, designed to represent the concept of perfect equilibrium. This Baphomet is Erebus. This Baphomet is a recurring symbol of occultism, widely adapted to represent the reconciliation of opposites, esoteric knowledge, and the summation of the universe. Baphomet was allegedly worshipped as a deity by the medieval order of the Knights Templar. King Philip IV of the France had many French Templars simultaneously arrested and then tortured into confessions in October 1307. The name Baphomet appeared in trial transcripts for the Inquisition of the Knights Templar. That same year, over 100 different charges had been leveled against the Templar. All kinds of heresy, spitting, urinating on the cross, and most of them were dubious as they were the same charges that were leveled against the Cathars. And many of King Philip's enemies he had earlier kidnapped Pope Boniface VIII and charged him with nearly identical offenses. Yet Malcolm Barber observes that historians find it difficult to accept that an affair to such enormity rests on the total fabrication. The Chinon parchment suggests that the Templars did indeed spit on the cross, says St. Sean Martin. What? That these acts were intended to simulate the kind of humiliation and torture that a crusader might be subject to if captured by the Saracens, where they were taught how to commit apostasy, with the mind only and not with the heart. Similarly, Michael Hagg suggests that the simulated worship of Baphomet did indeed form part of a Templar initiation rite. Levy's depiction of Baphomet is similar to that of the devil in the early tarot. Levy, working with the correspondences different from those later used by S.L. McGregor Mathers, equated the devil tarot key with Mercury, giving his figure Mercury Caduceus, rising like a phallus from his groin. Uh-oh. The symbol is said to have originated with Mercury / Hermes once attempted to stop a fight between two snakes by throwing his rod at them, whereupon they twined themselves around the rod. Word caduceus is from the Greek root meaning herald's wand, and was also a badge of diplomatic ambassadors and became associated with commerce, eloquence, alchemy, thievery, and lying. The etymology of caduceus is from Doric Greek, from the Greek meaning herald. Levy believed that the alleged devil worship of the medieval witches' Sabbath was a perpetual of ancient pagan rites. A goat with a candle between its horns appears in medieval witchcraft records and other pieces of lore cited in the Dogme et Ritual. Below this figure, we read a frank and simple inscription, the devil, yes. We confront here that phantom of all terrors, the dragon of all theogonies, the Ahriman of the Persians, the Typhon of the Egyptians, the Python of the Greeks, the old serpent of the Hebrews, and the fantastic monster, the nightmare, the Chromatane, the gargoyle, the great beast of the Middle Ages,
What is the
and worse than all these.
Crocomatane? What is that?
It doesn't have a link.
We should look that up after
And-
this.
Can you look that up while I'm reading this? Worse than all this, the Baphomet of the Templars, the bearded idol of the alchemists, obscene deity of Mendes, the goat of the Sabbath. The frontispiece to this ritual reproduces the exact figure of the terrible emperor of night with all his attributes and all his characters. Yes, in our profound conviction, the grand masters of the Order of the Templars worshipped the Baphomet and caused it to be worshipped by their initiates. Yes, there existed in the past and there may still be in the present assemblies which are presided over by this figure, seated on a throne and having a flaming torch between the horns. But the adorers of this sign do not consider, as do we, that it is a representation of the devil. On the contrary, for them, it is that the god of Pan, the god of our modern schools of philosophy, god of Alexandrian theurgic school, and of our own mystical Neoplatonists, the god of Lamartine and Victor Cousin, the god of Spinoza and Plato, the god of primitive Gnostic schools, and the Christ also of the dissident priesthood. The mysteries of the Sabbath have been variously described, but they figure always in grimoires and magical trials. And the revelations made on the subject may be classified under three heads: those referring to a fantastic and imaginary Sabbath, those which betray the secrets of the occult, assemblies of veritable adepts, and three revelations of foolish and criminal gatherings, having for their object the operations of black magic. So what did you find out about that name?
It means boogeyman in French.
Good. The Baphomet of Levi was to become a great figure in Thelema. That's, we know that. All right. Who else should I look up? Pazuzu?
Well, look up Baal.
We got Moloch. We got Pazuzu.
Look up the Canaanites.
Dude, Pazuzu. I mean, he's Babylonian, but still, that goes back.
That goes back.
That goes Baal. All right, Baal. We got Baal right here.
Baal.
Baal is a well-attested and surviving inscription, was popular in theophoric names throughout the Levant, but he's usually mentioned along with other gods, his own field of action being seldom defined. Nonetheless, Ugaritic records show him as a weather god, with particular power over lightning, wind, rain, and fertility. The dry summers of the area were explained as Baal's time in the underworld, and his return in autumn was said to have caused the storms that revived the land. Thus, the worship of Baal in Canaan, where he eventually supplanted El as the leader of the gods and the patron of kingship, was connected to the region's dependence on rainfall for its agriculture. Unlike Egypt and Mesopotamia, which focused on irrigation from their major rivers, anxiety about water availability for crops and trees increased the importance of his cult, which focused attention from his role as a rain god, but he also called upon during battle, showing that he thought to intervene actively in the world of man, unlike the more aloof El. Oh, El, so aloof. The Lebanese city of Baalbek was named after Baal. Alternatively, Baal is divine co-regent with El, where El was the executive, while Baal was a sustainer of the cosmos. Baal of Ugarit was the epithet of Hadad, but as time passed, the epithet became the god's name, while Hadad became epithet. Baal was usually said to be the son of Dagon, but appears as one of the sons of El. Ugaritic sources. Both Baal and El were associated with the bull in Ugaritic texts as they symbolize both strength and fertility. He held special enmity against snakes, both of their own as representatives of Yamu, the Canaanite sea god and river god. He fought Tannin, the twisted serpent, Lotan, the fugitive serpent, and the mighty one with the 7 heads. Baal's conflict with the Yamu is now generally regarded as the prototype of the vision recorded in the 7th chapter of the biblical book of Daniel. As vanquisher of the sea, the Canaanites, Phoenicians regarded Baal as the patron of sailors and seagoing merchants. As vanquisher of Mot, the Canaanite death god, he was known as Baal Rapi Uma and regarded as the leader of the Rephaim. The ancestral spirits, particularly those of the ruling dynasties. From Canaan, worship of Baal spread to Egypt by the Middle Kingdom and throughout the Mediterranean following the waves of Phoenician colonization in the early 1st millennium BCE. He was described with diverse epithets, and before Ugarit was rediscovered, these were supposed to refer to distinct local gods. However, as explained by Day, the texts at Ugarit revealed that they were considered local manifestations of this particular deity, analogous to the local manifestations of the Virgin Mary in the Roman Catholic Church. In those inscriptions, he is frequently described as victorious Baal, the mightiest one, or the mightiest ones, the powerful one. And in his role as patron of the city of Baal of Ugarit, as Baal Zephon, he was particularly associated with his palace atop Jebel Akh. He is also mentioned as a winged Baal. Phoenician and Aramaic inscriptions describe Baal of the Mace, Baal of Lebanon, and Baal of Sidon, Baal of the heavens,
Hold on.
and Baal Haman.
Let's look for like how Canaanites worshipped Baal. Oh, Beelzebub. You see that? Go down.
Yeah.
It's Baal Zebub. You see that? This is actually one of the few times I would love to see the AI's answer to something. I would love to see how AI would answer questions about Baal and fucking Beelzebub.
All right. Let's see.
According to Elon Musk, like this is talking to the demon. This is releasing the demon. No, this is summoning the demon, is what he said.
And ways to ritualize Baal going back to ancient Mesopotamia. Here is a detailed overview of what is known about the worship practices and ritualization of Baal in the ancient Near East, with the important caveat that our sources are incomplete, often come from polemical texts or later summaries, and that while there are good reconstructions for the Canaanite sphere, the evidence in Mesopotamia proper is much weaker.
I could be wrong, but the Canaanites are like a little bit. Maybe they exist at the same time, but I think they're like a little bit closer to our time. Like they're a little bit later down the line. I could be wrong about that.
Let's see what it says. Term Baal means Lord, same old shit. In the Canaanite and Levantine context, Baal is most often storm god, fertility deity. We all know that. Ugaritic Baal cycle. Baal fights against Yam, the sea, builds his palace, battles Mot. We all know, same old story. While Baal cults are best attested in the Levant, can also apply to various local lords, and there is some overlap and influence with Mesopotamian deity cultures, but strictly speaking, the full Baal cult as Western Levant is not deeply All right, fine. You got me. Do more so Canaanite worship.
What did the Canaanites do to worship Baal?
Let's see. Here we go.
See, now it's going to talk about all the deities. Go back, ask it. What did the Canaanites do to worship Baal? Baal.
Worship Baal. I mean, I do have a book about this, so maybe that would like specifically about the Canaanites, so maybe that would help.
It's like, dude, it's like avoiding what they did. I keep saying like, well, who was Baal? It's like, dude, just tell me the answer.
All right. Well, here's some answer. Baal was worshipped on hilltops or mountains, seen as closer to the heavens where the storm god dwelled. Stone altars and standing stones were erected, often alongside Asherah poles, wooden symbols, or Baal's consort, Asherah. Archaeological examples: Megiddo, Hazor, Lachish, Ugarit all show altars offering tables and libation vessels. An Ugaritic city of Ras Shamra had a large temple of Baal. All right, here we go. Core ritual acts of Baal worship. Animal sacrifice. Bulls and rams were the main offerings, both symbols of strength and virility. The Baal cycle describes offerings that restore Baal's favor after his return from death. Excavations at Ugarit, Megiddo, and Hazor found altars stained with animal blood and charred bones. Food, drink, and incense offerings. Worshippers presented grain, fruit, olive oil, wine, and honey on altars. Incense to carry prayers upward like smoke to the heavens. And priests or priestesses sometimes performed libations, pouring water or wine over the altar to symbolize rain. As the god of storms and fertility, Baal's cult celebrated the union of heaven and earth. Rituals may have included symbolic sexual acts or sacred marriage between priest-king and priestess representing Baal and Asherah/Anat. These acts symbolize the renewal of nature, rain, fertilizing the land. All right. Seasonal festivals. Baal cycle text describe his death dance of Mot and his return with the rains. This may have been dramatized every year harvest and again before the rainy season. We talk about that, about May Day and stuff like that. We talked about that back in the day, and a whole Baal theory about May. Extraordinary or crisis rituals. When droughts, famine, or military defeat struck, worship intensified. Child or human sacrifice, rare and controversial. I love how they threw that rare and controversial. The Bible and Phoenician inscriptions describe human sacrifices to Baal or Moloch. Archaeological evidence at Tophet in Carthage and Levant shows urns with cremated infant remains. Scholars debate whether these were true sacrifices to Baal in crisis times or votive burials of stillborn deceased infants offered to the gods. In any case, it reflects how desperate and serious fertility and rain were to the Canaanite worldview. Priests of Baal maintained temple fires, burned incense, and recited hymns from the Ugaritic liturgies. Morning and evening offerings likely mark sunrise and sunset, the gods' watching hours. In divination and omen reading, weather signs, cloud formations, and thunder patterns, all read as Baal's communication. How a typical Baal ritual looked. Purify the high place or temple, wash hands, light incense, invoke Baal with titles Rider of the Clouds, Lord of the Rain, offer a bull or lamb, pour libations, priest and priestess, communal feast, music and dance, and a closing prayer thanking Baal for renewing life with sprinkling of water as rain blessing. All right, let's get into Moloch.
Here we go.
Moloch, a word which appears in the Hebrew Bible several times, primarily in the book of Leviticus. The Greek Septuagint translates many of these instances as their king, but maintains the word of the name Moloch in others, including one additional time in the book of Amos, where the Hebrew text does not attest the name. The Bible strongly condemns the practices that are associated with Moloch, which are heavily implied to include child sacrifice. Traditionally, the name Moloch has been understood as referring to the Canaanite god. However, since 1935, scholars have speculated that Moloch refers to the sacrifice itself, since the Hebrew word Moloch is identical in spelling to a term that means sacrifice. In the closely related Punic language, the second position has grown increasingly popular, but it remains contested. Among proponents of the second position, controversy continues as to whether the sacrifices were offered to Yahweh or another deity, and whether they were a native Israelite religious custom or a Phoenician import. Since the medieval period, Moloch has often been portrayed as a bull-headed idol with outstretched hands over fire. This depiction takes brief mentions of Moloch in the Bible and combines them with various sources, including the ancient accounts of Carthaginian sacrifice and the legend of the Minotaur. Beginning in the modern era, Moloch has been figuratively used in the reference to a power which demands a dire sacrifice. A god Moloch appears in various forms of literature and film, such as John Milton's Paradise Lost. Let's see.
So, how does Moloch become an owl that people in America worship? You know?
I don't know.
Ask our friend about that.
As a form of sacrifice. All right. Why is Moloch depicted as a owl when he was previously depicted commonly as a bull. Here's a breakdown why Moloch is traditionally depicted as a bull-headed figure and why you sometimes see him as portrayed as an owl instead. In short,
we
the
go.
bull imagery comes from ancient, though partly speculative reconstructions of his cult and iconography. The owl motif is a modern reinterpretation / conflation with other symbols, not grounded in ancient primary evidence. Interesting. The owl motif is not something we find clearly in the ancient Hebrew or Canaanite text describing Moloch. There is no strong primary source that says Moloch equals owl deity in the ancient period. Instead, modern authors and conspiracy theory occult literature note that the owl totem at Bohemian Grove has been linked to some commentators to Moloch, thus generating an image of Moloch as an owl. Most recently, Moloch has been connected same thing. Also, more speculative sources claim that in certain occult symbolism accounts, the owl is equated with Moloch because of his similarities in name, phonetics, or because the owl symbolizes death and desolation in ancient cultures. For instance, one site says the Egyptian name for the owl is Moloch or Moloch. But these claims are marginal in the academic literature, and many scholars regard the Moloch owl link as a modern conflation rather than rooted in ancient worship or iconography.
Let's look at Owl Moloch for a second, or Moloch. Let's look at a picture of the Owl Moloch. You might have to go on Google. Right there.
Which one? The one right there?
Yeah, Bohemian Grove.
Oh, yeah, the original you're talking about. I could have just typed that in.
Is Moloch a horned owl? Not like literal horns, but like the species of owl. Is he a horned owl?
Is the Bohemian Grove owl a horned owl? Says there's no specific breed that they were
It
going
looks
for.
like it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And I was
Horned owl.
thinking that maybe the reason why it's an owl now is because depicting a demon with horns as something that you're worshiping in secret for fun is gonna like freak people the fuck out. But if you just worship the same deity in its form as a horned owl,
Yeah, that makes total sense.
you can still show it pure reverence and respect while also just having that deniability. No, this Moloch, this Moloch's not. We're not doing the same thing. It's different.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That makes total sense.
Because the horn god comes in many forms.
And when you typically see symbolism, I feel like besides America, when you see like international symbolism that's supposed to be like devilish and like represent the Canaanites and supposed to represent like the cult of Moloch and shit like that,
Yeah,
I feel like you always see a bull, but in the United States you see an owl commonly. Like the Freemasons probably adopted the owl specifically for the United States, but the rest of the world still uses a bull. So, like for instance, I forgot what note it is, but one of the European notes, if you fold it, supposedly you can see a picture of Moloch, and it looks crazy because when you fold it, it looks just like a bull, which is wild.
crazy.
Yeah. There's another one too where supposedly I think it's King Charles painting, like the really really fucking weird one where it's all red and looks really creepy and like and kind of like demonic. If you supposedly take it and you flip it and you do the same thing, you mirror it. That's what I should have said earlier. You mirror the image.
Yeah,
It comes out to be to show like I think it's a bull with horns and shit on it. And it looks like a demonic like bull. So maybe they practice the bull in like outside of the United States, but like keep the owl as the United States thing because of the Freemasons.
yeah. Oh, definitely. You ever watch that movie, The Conspiracy, or just Conspiracy?
I'll be honest with you, I have that on my list of movies, but I haven't seen that yet. With the one with the
What?
bull horns on it's the one with the silhouette guy with
It's
the horns on his
insane
head.
that you haven't seen that yet, dude.
I know it's a movie that I would love.
It's not even like the greatest movie in the world, but it's
It's up my alley though. I
yeah.
know that.
But what's
When I-
interesting
when
about that is that like it's bull iconography, but in the place of the Bohemian Grove story. So it's like they're mirroring Bohemian Grove, but with the actual bull version of it, and I think they might call it something else in that. I'm not sure.
That's interesting.
But also, I should say the bull. I think the bull is what you. I don't want. You know, I'm not gonna spoil it because you haven't seen it yet.
It's like an ancient, like Mesopotamian gods type thing, though, right? That's what I heard about it.
Well, dude, it's just like I said, it's Bohemian Grove, but they don't already say it.
Yeah, I gotta watch it. All right.
You know, what I think we should do next.
What?
What entities get mistaken for demons?
That's a good one.
Or what are some entities that some people believe are demons and some people believe are
Well, Lucifer, number one.
are neutral entities at best, at the worst?
Would Lucifer be neutral?
I have no idea.
He's a fallen angel. He's technically rules a kingdom.
I was thinking more like Jinn, you know?
I got you. What are some entities? All right. I spelled Jin wrong, but that's okay.
That's okay. He'll know what's up.
Yeah. It's like he purposely spelled it right two different ways to be like, fuck you.
No, yeah, because you can put a D at the beginning of Jinn. Like that's how it's
I
spelled.
put a G by accident
know.
because it was right next to the D on the keyboard. And it's just like, you fucking idiot. It's like it's Jin with a J or a D. Don't give me that shit.
Osmodeus, dude.
Yeah, they're saying Osmodeus, an embodiment of human emotional force, not pure evil, part of the dualistic tensions in Persian cosmology between order, Asha, and chaos, Druj. Beelzebub, Canaanite title meaning or Baal, Lord. So yeah, Baal could be considered good. Lilith, queen of hell, so to speak. Spirits of storm, seduction, and disease, sometimes protectors of pregnant women or avengers of women wronged. In a rabbinic myth, became Adam's first wife turned demoness, a remnant of goddess archetypes, later reframed as demonic feminine power. Modern occult view independent astral intelligence or egregor embodying suppressed feminine divinity. Astaroth, goddess of love, war, and fertility. They got a lot of goddesses, a lot of gods of fertility. Divine feminine principle of Venus, transformed by Christian demonologist in Astaroth, a male demon prince of hell. Real nature, an ancient goddess miscast as infernal, possibly linked with Venusian energies, passion, desire, and transformation.
Wait,
Pazuzu.
Go back up. Did you read the part where it says many demon kings and grimoires are actually defeminized echoes of old goddesses?
No, I didn't read that.
So Astaroth is common. When I hear that, I think of like, I guess I just assumed that it was a male demon.
Well, that's what they're saying too, is that a lot of these old goddesses just became like male demons eventually. Ishtar. Anybody that's gonna watch this that also watches our Grindhouse episodes, there's a character named like Ishtar or Ashtar or something like that. And I'm pretty sure she's based on this exact demon, but she's played up as a female demon, an ancient Mesopotamian female demon in the movie. It's called Blood Diner. It's one of the worst but best movies I've ever seen if you really want to watch a terrible movie. Anyways, Pazuzu. Pazuzu! The spirit of diseases and pestilence, but also invoked against Lamish II and other evils, a protector in disguise. True identity, a liminal spirit, dangerous but protective and more a chaotic force than evil entity. Parallel to the Jinn in same ambivalent morality, dangerous if disrespected, beneficial if appeased. And we all know Pazuzu from the Exorcist movie. You know, we talked about maybe we talked about that in the thing. We kind of went through the Exorcist quick.
Yeah.
Dude.
Hopefully,
But
we
Pazuzu, yeah, hopefully we talked about the fact that it's Pazuzu that possessed her. Pazuzu's the possession. Pan Baphomet, the goat archetype. Greek rustic god Pan, nature, fertility, panic. Get it? Pan, ick. and freedom. Half man, half goat, deity of wilderness and instinct. So basically, this like thing just constantly is just like freaking out and has anxiety. This is like the Greek god of anxiety, panic. Holy shit, I love that. Reclassification. Early Christianity associated his image with the devil. Ooh. Later conflations. Baphomet borrowed the goat-headed form. And real nature, pagan life force symbol turned into an embodiment of evil due to moral dualism. Samuel. Origin, Jewish mystical figure, angel of death and severity. Nature, both accuser and destroyer, part of divine hierarchy.
Satan, I believe, means the accuser, doesn't it? Or is that Lucifer?
I'm not sure. Maybe that's why it says later mystics blurred him with Satan and Lucifer. He was both part of divine hierarchy, not a rebel, though.
Yeah, he's just an angel.
Yeah.
What I think a lot of people think is that that's Lucifer's name before he was Lucifer.
Was Sam?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy if you name your kid Sam that then.
Yeah.
Well,
that's Samuel.
Yeah. Imagine you name your kid like the exact spelling though. Samael.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. The necessary shadow aspect of divine judgment, more akin to a psychopomp or balancing force than a devil. Intermediary of divine decree, not an independent enemy of God. Yeah, he sounds like the Grim Reaper, basically. Azazel. Yeah. Azazel.
Shinigami.
Hebrews. Was it?
Shinigami.
What is that?
Japanese death thing.
Ah. Oh, gotcha.
Spirit of death, death angel.
The Grim Reaper. Azazel. Origin. Hebrew scapegoat ritual. Desert spirit or place name. Why does it say place name? Nature. Receiver of the community's sins and wilderness rites. Became a fallen angel in the Book of Enoch and Grimoires, an archetype of exile, transgression, and purification, a wilderness deity of a desert jinn type, an entity later reframed as infernal. Oh, that sucks. Azazel's a cool one. It's all the names that I like.
Yeah.
Literally. It's literally. Besides the B ones that just sound fucking crazy. Lamia, Impusa, Strix, Greek and Roman night spirits or vampiric entities. Predators of the living, sometimes transformed women or cursed beings. Reclassification. Early Christian demonology merged them into succubi. Real identity, mythic personifications of nocturnal fears, disease, or psychic parasitism. Could correspond to astral or energetic feeders, not necessarily moral demons. Shaitan. Iblis was a jinn who refused to bow to Adam, not an angel. An archetype of pride and separation, yet still a jinn, not an angel. Western interpreters equated him with Lucifer, flattening the metaphysics. A non-angelic being representing free will and rebellion, part of divine dialectic, not identical to the Judeo-Christian Satan. Leviathan. Origin. Ugaritic, Canaanite chaos serpent, Lotan. Sea serpent of storm. Symbol of primordial chaos, later recast as an infernal sea demon. Personification of cosmic entropy. The oceanic unconsciousness. The oceanic unconscious could be viewed as elemental intelligence of water or void, not moral evil. Interesting.
All right, so which of these do you see yourself making a pact with?
Honestly, I would probably say Astaroth out of everything. But yeah, that's the one. That's the one I would choose. An ancient goddess miscast as infernal, possibly linked with Venusian energies, passion, desire, and transformation.
So you were trying to just get in touch with your divine feminine, but like, what kind of pact would you make with Astaroth?
I guess to further my transformation in life, to be more of a complete person, I guess. That's probably where I would go.
What would you do in exchange for that?
I don't know. I wouldn't be sacrificing people or things or animals or anything. Yeah. Closest thing I would do is pray or or do something like that.
I mean, praying is something. Worship
Yeah.
is something.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, worship. Basic worship. Yeah. But I don't know. That's probably as far as I would go.